Make sense? Everybody good? So this is, yes, ma'am. Because every time paper goes through the photocopier, it kills me, and I can just feel the ink bleeding out of our budget. And so the folders we gave folders for the people who are members of the church. They've gone through the membership class and they've been that. So which we're starting on Saturday. Also, new membership classes starting on Saturday. But there's no data, there's no information in those packets that are not relevant for you, so you can take it from anybody else and read on and that sort of thing. So it's not like that. It was just me trying to save paper. I also, most of them, the married couples, I didn't give them their own individual. I gave them to the couple. So because I just don't like using paper. So, but yeah, the packets where the couples, you have 2 copies of the things to fill out. What's that? If you want. Or they actually give them one of the ones off the back too. There's also people that were members that didn't, you can have, we can steal from those too. Here. I just realized we didn't need to do that. Here. We'll give one to Cynthia. That's just, so. Well, you don't have to look at it now. It's for later. No. Here's an extra. Yeah. Here's one. Just from, wait, that's Amy's. She's here. Yeah, Piper's. Where'd Amy go? Where'd Amy go? That's not Amy, that's Hope. I saw her. Amy. Oh, there she is. This is for you, Amy. Okay, so the gray paper is the itinerary, meeting itinerary. There's lots of stuff to talk about. And so I'm using gray paper, using colored paper because I want to use it up. So I might as well give it a purpose. And so then the different colored things are that forms that we'd like back. And then Roy got the white paper for the finance because his stuff was actually in color. So I thought I'd do that. So anyway, so this is the annual society meeting. First thing I want to stress is that we talked about starting the service with worship. And I want you all to understand, this is worship. Anytime we're considering the direction that God is taking us and what we're doing, what we're going through, that's worship. So, and that's not a cop-out either, that's real. And we're going to be talking about, not today, but we'll be talking about ways that worship can be often very different than our experiences in the past. First thing, someone came to me and they would like to do some just church business and do a little bit of prayer. So I'm going to hand the microphone to Laura Lee and she can.
So most of you know that my folks, we're trying to move them into our house. They live in a little house literally like 30 feet next to our house. And just, with my dad needing some more support and stuff. Anyways, well, we really need to install some kind of a ramp because, there's times that he can't really walk very well. And anyways, and we have pretty good stairs leading up into our house. So we thought we'd found a ramp like a couple months ago and it didn't work out. And anyways, well, I found a ramp this morning on Marketplace and I texted the guy and I asked him if he'd consider a much lower price because it's fairly far away. It's in Tacoma. We'd have to drive up there and get it. And he was like, sure. He went for my price, and we're going to go get it this next weekend. And I know that it's just a big transition for all of us, and especially for my folks. And even though it's a really good thing, it's still, it's scary, and it's hard. And so just if you could remember all of us in prayer as we just, try and, do this. It's going to be a lot of change for all of us. And I just have to remind myself that God's grace is sufficient. Yes.
Okay, thanks for that. Clicker thing. Thanks. Yes, ma'am. Uh-huh. I think so. I was vague about that, so it can be any way I want it to be. Okay, so my clicker isn't clicking. There it is. So next, a word from our sponsor. A lot of people have a life verse or a verse that just says, "This is who I am," right? And I have a couple of them. The first one for me is when Jesus comes down from a mountain and there's a dad with his child, and the child is epileptic and self-abusive, and all kinds of things are going bad. And Jesus goes, "What's going on?" And the dad says, "This, my son, I need him to be healed. Is it possible for you to heal him?" And Jesus' answer is, "It's possible if you believe. Anything is possible for those who believe." And my signature verse is where the dad's answer, he says, "Lord, I believe, help my unbelief." And for me, that's I don't like to believe in miracles. I don't like to acknowledge them. Every time something miraculous happens, I want to explain it away. I am the consummate doubting Thomas. That's who I am. And God just keeps on going, "You know what? I'm real, regardless of what you keep on trying to convince yourself." And stick around, because I see miracles happen because I don't believe them. And God just keeps on throwing them out there like, "Okay, what do I do with this?" And I have a short memory, so he has to keep reminding me of his power. So that's kind of advantageous for you guys. The second thing, I have another verse that's just for me a signature. This is a verse that I just hang on to, my identity. And that's 1 John 4:9 says, "If our heart condemns us, God is greater than our hearts, and he knows all things." And there's two aspects of that. First is my heart tends to condemn itself. I know everything that's wrong with me, even though I try and lie to myself about most of them. When I buy a used car, I know that somebody's selling it to me because there was something wrong with it they just don't want to deal with anymore. And they will typically hide that from everybody around them, right? So you don't know what's actually wrong with it when you buy it. But when Jesus purchased me, he knew exactly what he was buying. And he did it anyway. It was the right deal. What's that? Yeah. So that's half of that. The other half of that is that in my heart, I can also judge others, and I can see things in other people that don't meet up to my own expectations. And Jesus' answer is, if my heart condemns others, God is also greater than my heart. And he knows all things. And that's not I have no right to be doing that. So those are my two verses. When I look through the Bible, different things, if I wanted to have a verse, I say, this is Ignite Hope. This is this church. This is what it is. 1 Thessalonians 2, 7 and 8. And it says, "But we were gentle among you like a nursing mother, taking care of her own children. So being affectionately desirous of you, we were ready to share with you not only the gospel of God, but also our own selves, because you had become very dear to us." And that was my experience when I came to Ignite Hope, what this group of people is, and that the love and the desire to just share of yourselves is overwhelming. And so anyway, if you guys have a different verse, love to talk about those and give you guys opportunity to share that this is who Ignite Hope is. But just for me, where I am, what I see of Ignite Hope, what I would say is Ignite Hope's signature voice. Nobody voted on this, by the way. This is just my perspective. Good? Good. My clicker is... I just changed them. No. I think the on switch is... That's not where we're supposed to be. Yeah, let me get back to, all right. Okay. So next, first, I spent a lot of time up in front of you guys, but I want you to know that this church is such a team operation. There's so many things that people are doing and what they're about that I couldn't go on without breaking my box. So there's a few people I'd like to recognize, about 30 of them. So, and this is just something. So, Chloanne, thank you for just the work that you do with the kitchen, with the children, with the prayer, with all the different ways that you help people out. I'm going to try and rush this through. Okay, this is a sealed package because I sealed it. The first page these are all used because I wrote the first page. I wrote a note on the first of them. So each of the first pages has a note to you. Okay. Wyatt's gone. He's probably changing a diaper. Wyatt's our drummer, and he's also just been involved in with the worship team and developing direction, helping us find direction. Helen, she doesn't think she's involved in leadership at all, but she is. She's a tremendous help in ministering to people and just seeing needs and helping out with those things and praying together. Having her dog come in and attack people, lick them to death. This is for Marilyn. She's currently our lay delegate. She's not going to be our lay delegate after today, but she's also involved with the children's ministry, very actively involved in that, and is a board member. I can't read my own handwriting. Chris is involved with the teens. He's also just a staple for me, as a sounding board for me. He doesn't realize it, but he's very helpful for that. Fran is amazing. Everything is here. Everything you see here is here today because Fran, at some point, stepped up just to make it happen. That's what she does. Mike is also our youth leader. He's also does the sound stuff and is also an LMC and actually has a great ministry with at-risk folks, helping mentoring them. That's an extension of us, and any way we can support that, whether they know it or not, yeah. Doug is on the worship team, and I'm so grateful for him. He comes up committed all the time, even when he's not feeling like it. Xanadu, who's not a member of the church yet, but she's also been instrumental and helpful. She just catches in wherever she's can find something to help out. She's helping out with those things. This is taking... Dessa just walked in. She doesn't know what I'm doing. But her involvement on the worship team, and then also, I'm going to give you this with somebody else's name on it. Just ignore the somebody else's name, and you see that. You already got one. It's up there. That's Marilyn. We haven't gotten to you yet. We've been talking too long. Yeah. I don't think so. I think I got this. Roy? Everybody knows what Roy does. Actually, he does a couple of things. First, he's our treasurer, and he manages our finances and makes sure the tax people are not noticing us. And then the second thing is everything I come around in this building, everything that I fix, he comes back after me and fixes. Georgia involved with the children's ministry, and also she works with seniors. Bruce, thank you so much for your work with the worship team and prayer. There she is. Kat, Thank you so much. The birthday thing is a big deal. And it's really important. Kat inserts herself into every situation in a positive way, whether we like it or not. Charlie, I mean, this is over the past year. Charlie was really a major hitter for making the building working for the first half of the year. And since then, he's had to back off because his family has needed him, and that's an important thing to do. But we just definitely want to recognize your contribution and also how you continue, even though you're backed off of the role, you're still being called on and still doing things. Another person who doesn't think that she's in leadership, not you. Mary, thank you so much. Mary's actually, she does a lot with she's on the space utilization team. I have to think about the name of that because I didn't come up with it. But for that, I really appreciate in all the ways that you just help out with making things look nice and be nice. Teresa works with the children and also is a great encouragement. Bill, my personal bulwark. He's like my mooring. He just keeps me. There was one point when Bill got sick and it freaked me out. Bulwark, yeah, bulwark, is that right? Just say moor, he's my mooring. He's my mooring, we'll do that. Right. What did you think I said? Charles, thanks so much, not only with the sound, but just, we talked about it. You just have this presence that I'm so grateful for, and you're part of the leadership of this church just by being who you are. That making us all sound good too. And look good on the video and all those things too. Well, look good, I don't know if I'm doing that. Dick and Gloria. Dick can't hear me. Thank you. But they are unseen leaders in this church. Their prayer support, their concern. They reach out very specifically when they see people in need and encourage them and provide ways that we just never see. It's unspoken. So, Ruth also. Ruth was part of my prayer team in the. Ruth and Iron were part of my prayer team when I was going through the CMC, LMC process. And then also she's continued to be of great prayer support for us. Phyllis also, thank you so much for your prayer and support, and also for your ministry to people in the grocery line, which is real, yeah. This is for Colleen. She's also a ministry, just helping out, doing things wherever it needs to be done. Joe, I'm already out of time, so I can't even begin to say all the things that you do. So I'm really grateful with children's ministry and then just working on how we can make our physical space what it needs to be. I'm so very grateful for what you're doing, and I'm leaving things out because I don't want to spend every minute of today. Eventually we're going to want to eat. Okay, these are the last ones. Amy, thank you so much for your work with the church, cleaning the church, and also with your helping out in the sound booth and that. And coffee. She makes coffee. She and Bill and Fran. Hope, especially with the work of Alpha, what she's doing here, leading Alpha, but also the worship team and just different ways that she's ministering. Denny, thank you so much for all the work that you do around the building, keeping this place looking good and quietly correcting me when I'm doing something really, really not very smart. Really appreciate that. Melody, thank you so much for your work also cleaning the church, taking care of things. I can't even begin. Thank you. Yes. You guys don't get one. All right. Okay, thank you so much, guys, for your ministry, for your continued ministry and being involved in this congregation. I do appreciate everything that you do. God is grateful to you for all the things that you do. He says so throughout His Word. And so, thank you. So, now, so I can go blow my nose. Next, I'd like Marilyn to come up. She wants to say something. I have no idea what she's going to say. So she's our current lay delegate. She is going to be stepping down from that role as of today, but she's also a board member, so she's both of those. And anyway, here's the microphone.
Thank you. I just really wanted to get up and just say thank you to everybody. It seems Mark's done a good job of thanking most of you this morning, but it's been an honor being the lay delegate and being able to be a good in-between to hear, which we haven't had that situation, but being in the role to hear people and to be able to work through things. And again, we haven't had anything happen, but it's been really fun to just be able to pray and listen to God and just like work through the transition of pastorship with Mark and Wendy. So I'm excited about the projection of where the church is going, and I know that whoever fills this next role is going to be honored as well and be in just a good space to hear people and to move the church forward in a great space. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Marilyn. So next is Bill. Bill said he wanted to give and say a few words, and so everybody sit back, get comfortable.
Hi, Zoic. Where you going? Well, my perspective on what I was going to say has changed over the past few weeks, obviously. But I just wanted to comment on what I've seen as positive changes, especially within this past year or so. We have gone through a lot here, but I see when we were always questioning our finances and struggling with them over a number of years, we now have a stable financial picture, and we know where we're at day by day, week by week. I really thank Roy. This is important because that's something we've struggled with for years here. And it's just something that we shouldn't be struggling with. We should know what we're doing. But we've learned. We've done things here around the building that we've been afraid to do because of lack of finances, improvements that especially Harold had started with the re-siding and installation of our walls and windows, and that is finished, you know. I mean, there's some more things to do, but it's just a huge change, and if you'd been thinking and working on this over the years, you'd realize, you know, this has been a thing hanging over our heads, you know, and it shouldn't be. So we're doing things that are positive, getting out of the holes that time and lack of resources has put us into. And I think we're in a position 1,000 times better than what we were as far as being able to reach out into the community and make a difference. So to me, I mean, I'm sitting there struggling because I know my wife's at home and not feeling good and been through a lot. But yet, we are a closer, tighter family than I think we've been in years. And I think we're growing closer and closer with God, more so than we've been in years. I think it's just it's the first part of the year. It's a new year. And we're in a new place. And I think we're in a good place. That's all I have.
And next is Roy, the financial report. So, yeah. Do you want background music? Okay.
All right, I'm going to talk about our finances. Part of it is the 2025 budget, which you guys haven't seen, but I'm also going to talk about 2024 and how we did. And we did well. God is good. You're supposed to say all the time. All the time? Yeah. So we've been blessed, and all of our money comes from basically the people in this room. And God loves cheerful givers, and we're just stewards of what God has given us, that individually and also as a church. And so God has given us stable finances, and we should use those resources wisely to further His kingdom. If we just sit on the bank account, and then when Jesus comes back and we point at this big, huge bank account and say, "Look how much we saved," I don't think we're going to be praised for that. So we have to use what God has given us for His work. So let's get started. First slide. You should all have this in your handouts, so you can follow along if it's easier to read in your handouts. So the first column is January 1st, 2024, how much money we had, and there's one a little over a year ago, and now January 1st, 2025, see how much money we had. And so, we started the year with $46,955. Now we have more than $80,000 in the bank. So it's good. Our bank account is growing, so it enables us to do some things like, fix up the building and reach out to the community and focus on our ministries. You can see our savings account. It grew by just a little bit. That's only 0.5% of interest that we earn from Key Bank. So this year we're going to move $30,000 into a flex CD with the Free Methodist Foundation. A little bit better interest, 2.5%. It's five times better than 0.5%, though. Oh, the Free Methodist Foundation. The Free Methodist Foundation, it's I guess it's an umbrella organization. It includes financial planning. Those services are available to our pastors. I don't know how many of our pastors actually take advantage of that. But they also have something called the Investment and Loan Fund. And so, it's like a bank. People deposit money, and the Free Methodist Foundation pays very good competitive interest rates. But they use the money in the Investment and Loan Fund to make low-interest loans to churches to help them to do their building projects, or to help them grow and whatnot. So it's basically the same thing that a bank does, loans money to people for their mortgages and using the money that people deposit. And same thing. The only difference is that it's not FDIC insured, but it's safe. If the Free Methodist Church goes belly up, then, we go belly up with it. So, it's safe. Any other questions about that? Okay. Let's move on to the summary. Next slide. Income versus expenses. So there's 3 columns now. 2024 actuals, that's what we actually earned or spent. 2024 is what we planned, that's our budget, the center column. And 2025 budget is what the Board of Administration proposes as our budget for 2025. And the way we create our budget is we look at what has happened in the past, we look at how well we did according to our previous budget, and we look at what plans we have for the future for this year, and then come up with what we think would be a reasonable, prudent amount to forecast for the next year's budget. So on the income side, we earned $217,000. Our budget was $200,000, so we earned more than we budgeted, which is good. It's always great to find out you earned more money than you thought you were going to get. So we increased our 2025 budget to $219,700. So we're bullish on our future as far as our income is concerned. And on the expense side, we spent $183,000 and we budgeted $207,000. And so that's good too. On the expense side, you always want to spend less than what you planned, and so that's good. And then compare income versus expenses. It's another number. Income was more than our expenses, which is also good. You always want to spend less than you earn, right? So that's good. So overall, the bottom line, the surplus, our bank accounts increased by $33,721. Our budget was actually a deficit budget. We planned to lose a little bit of money, about $7,000, mostly because we knew we were going to do all of this remodeling work last year that we did. But turns out that we ended up with a big surplus because of the generosity of our congregation here. So for 2025, we plan on basically a balanced budget, a small surplus, $2,200 at the end of the year. And you can see the categories. We're increasing our ministry budget considerably, with much more invested in our youth and in our children's ministry, and also outreach, which is how we grow and how we serve the community. Operations is still a big number, $90,000. There's still some more facility work that we have to do. So that's why the operations budget is so high. And then staff is basically Pastor Mark. Any questions? Okay, so here's the detailed breakdown of the income. The categories are on the left side of all the income sources. The only, like I said, almost all of our money comes from within our congregation. We get a little bit of money from outside agencies who rent the church, but that's a very small amount. And any money that we get from outside rent, we just donate to our missionary support for Vietnam missions. The top line numbers, the bold numbers, those are the same numbers you just saw on the previous page. And this is the breakdown of where it's coming from. Most of it comes from tithes and offerings. And the only thing I need to explain about the 2025 budget is the rent line looks like it goes up a lot to $25,000, and that's because we are renting the parsonage to the Steinharts. So that's where and that counts as income. And we get taxed on that. The EPP, the support we give to the Oregon Conference, we tithe 10%, and it's on all income, including rent of the parsonage. So just so that you're aware of that. And then interest earned, we'll probably do better than $200 once we put the money into that Free Methodist Foundation CD. Any questions on income? All right, next slide is the details of ministry. The ministry budget, as I mentioned, is increased considerably, and you can see where we're putting our money. It's in children, and we're increasing our hospitality, or we're We didn't spend all of our hospitality and benevolence budget for this year, but hopefully in 2025 we will. And that's to help people in need. That's what hospitality and benevolence is for. Missions, you can see we're increasing our missions giving, but the reason why the missions actuals in 2024 is $4,000, it's considerably more than what we've budgeted, is because the special gifts that people give that go to missions, that's not budgeted. And so anyone who designates donations to missions goes into our support to the missionaries. And so we did well. We gave quite a bit. We're substantially increasing our outreach budget. And so the Alpha project for the community youth, that's a form of outreach. And those are the kinds of programs that we're investing in. Website, we're going to get some more help in maintaining and improving our website. We're the worship budget, that's for sound equipment and for the Sunday experience, and the youth budget, we're keeping it $2,400. The youth did not spend all of their money last year, but hopefully we'll, as things ramp up, we'll be able to minister to our youth. Any questions about ministry? Okay. Next slide. Last slide. This is operations. This is our largest budget category, and that's basically keeping the facility maintained and paying our utility bills and just keeping, the day-to-day running of the church, paying our insurance, paying our taxes. That's all under operations. And the actuals for 2024 are $78,789, somewhat less than the almost $100,000 that we had budgeted, and mostly that's because of we had planned on spending more for the church remodel, and for various reasons, the discounts that our contractor gave us and also a $10,000 grant from Oregon Conference, we ended up spending almost $20,000 less than what we budgeted. But for 2025, we have a $64,900 budget for facilities, and that will allow us to continue our remodel where Jolia found a nice stove to replace our old stove, and so that comes out of that budget. And we're going to remodel the bathrooms and various other things that need attention at our church. Also, we set aside some money for parsonage maintenance, $11,700 basically, to make sure that the parsonage is kept well maintained. Tax. You can see that our tax budget is considerably less than what we actually spent and what we budgeted for 2024. We're finally catching up with our back taxes. We might get some money back from IRS. We wrote to them in, I think the original letter was in April of last year, and they were supposed to get back to us in 60 days and tell us what they're going to do. And every 60 days, they send us a letter that says, we need more time, give us another 60 days. They did that, like, what, 3 times? But the last one we got says that they figured it out. They haven't told us what they decided, but they said they figured it out, and we'll know pretty soon. So hopefully that means we'll get a check back. I don't know, but we'll see. I'll be really mad if they say we owe them more money. Then then we'll have to argue with them again. So, yeah, that's probably true. Yeah. Let's go back a few slides. You could go back to the summary slide. Yep, that one. Oh, one more. Yeah, this slide. Just want to point out the different categories of where we spend our money. The biggest category is operations, and number 2 is staff, and then ministry. As our church becomes more and more healthy, hopefully the ministry budget will be the biggest number. You know, we spend more serving the Lord than just, you know, serving ourselves, keeping the, you know, lights on and whatnot and remodeling the building. But that will take time, but that's where we're headed. But the good news is that we have a balanced budget. We're earning more than we budget. We're earning more than we spend. And we're not spending as much as, it's not like we're going wild with our checkbook. So we're good stewards. Any question? Do we need approval for the budget?
We do, that's going to be for, after lunch, we'll come back here, we'll come back and just do this. Three things we have to ask questions, and we'll do a voting on that. Okay, so, thank you. So a couple of things just on that. First, I just forgot what I was going to say anyway, so I'll just not say anything, and that'll work. All right, so I'm going to run through these rather quickly, and you guys know that I talk quickly anyway, so just bear with me. I don't want anybody's bottoms to be too sore, so there's a lot of information to go through moving forward, and we're just going to run through it really, really quickly as I can. But you have everything that I'm going to talk about in front of you, so take notes and we can talk about it, and then we'll talk about it during lunch and moving forward, okay? Also, if I say something that, the reason why I want to go through this, if you say something and you go, hey, what's up with that? I don't understand that. We'll stop and take time to deal with those things, okay? So this is not just me talking. This is a opportunity for you to share. So 2024, what's your name? Roy referred to, I get my glasses on. Look at that. Yeah, now nobody's fuzzy except for Charles. So 2024, we repaired the roof, or replaced the roof over the fellowship hall, repaired, and some other areas. We also re-roofed the parsonage. We re-sided this building and replaced the aluminum windows with vinyl. We repainted the exterior and replaced flooring in the parsonage, the living room, dining room, and kitchen, and the hallway. And we also repaired the kitchen wall where there was water damage on that. Anything else? There's something else I'm missing we did. We did something else too, and I can't remember what it was last year. Anybody remember what it was that's not on the list? Oh, yeah, we had new windows. Yeah, that's on the list. That's this year. Stoves this year. Yeah, well, we replaced windows, or we replaced the broken windows. Okay, but there's nothing that we did that it was so. 2025, so far we've replaced one of the furnaces, the furnace that services the bathroom, offices, nursery. If you guys walked in here during December and smelled gas, maybe you did, and so we replaced one of the furnaces. The other one that's in there might also have to be replaced soon, but we're not going to go crazy on our spending budget if that shows up. We'll make sure that we have the money there available to do that. One note on that is that when they inspected the furnace, the inspector came and there was a piece of insulation in the vent cover on the door that he had me remove. And so if you walk past that and if the furnace seems louder than it was before, it's not. The new furnace isn't louder than the old furnace. There's another old furnace in there that's louder because we removed the insulation, okay? So that's okay, but we know that furnace is likely going to probably fail sometime this year. And so we will be prepared to deal with that. We have replaced the kitchen stove. We just don't have it yet. It's going to be here in like 2 weeks. There was a significant plumbing leak. Our water bill was like $500 a month, or $400 a month, which seemed like a problem. So we got that fixed actually this week. We are in the process of remodeling the women's bathroom that's over here by the drinking fountain. What we're doing is we're dividing that into 2 bathrooms, like it was before, like a long time ago. And one of those we're going to make into a ADA compliant, handicap accessible, unisex bathroom. We're kind of backing off on the remodel. We want to remodel all the bathrooms and upgrade them and get them right, but we're going to start with this one and find out how much that actually costs. And so otherwise the contractor who is redoing that is bidding off of unknowns. But if they do this bathroom first, then those unknowns become knowns, what they can expect for the other bathrooms. That'll affect the bids, and so that we can move forward better on that. We also want to remove the non-functioning light pole that's out here in the yard. I've got everything to do that. I'm just scared to do it by myself because I might take out a teenager or a car. So we'll figure out a plan for that, or I'll just let Roy do it for me. So anyway, we're going to put a utility, take down that pole and put just a utility box, electrical box. There's electricity that goes to that, so we're going to put an electrical box there out in that spot. I'd like to move that pole out into the parking lot, but that's a whole nother project, probably not this year, maybe sometime in the future. We want to replace the cement pad, the gravel, the cement step on the F Street side, which is the door that you guys all come into on the gravel parking lot. We want to make that entrance ADA accessible, and so, and then we want to repaint the hallways. You know, the hallways are pink. They're pink. They're lavender. That's pink. I was invited actually to. They wanted me to become a pastor of this church in Iowa, an associate pastor, because they were just experiencing this explosive growth, and they needed somebody to come in and help out. I actually had to convince him that I wasn't right for the job. It was just God was not leading me to that particular church. My skill set, in my mind, did not match what they needed for that position. And so, but it was weird having to convince. Basically, I couldn't convince him. I just said no. It was one of those weird conversations. But their explosive growth was largely because they specifically, their outreach was geared specifically toward men in the congregation. And so they redesigned everything about their church so that men would feel comfortable there. And they said statistically, if a wife and kids come to the church, 20% of the guys will show up with them. If the guys come to church, then almost 100% of their families come. And so that was their strategy. That's not our strategy here. We have a different direction that God's leading us. We're not just following what somebody else did because it was a good idea. But probably we could get past the pink walls, lavender. Anyway, so when we repaint the hallways, we hope to replace the carpet in the fellowship hall and also replace the flooring in the kitchen, if we can. We're looking at the remodeling, upgrading all the bathrooms, but we don't know what that looks like yet. Yes, ma'am.
Well, my question is about replacing the fellowship hall carpet. Can it not be carpet? Because carpet is terrible anywhere you have food. Like laminate flooring, anything's an improvement over carpet.
So I don't want to broach that question here, and honestly, myself personally, I could not care less. I don't care what's on the floor. I do care what's there now because it's not what we want to present, but there are definitely pros and cons for every kind of decision that we make, but it's not going to be an arbitrary decision. It's going to be where we're going to have an opportunity where people can discuss what they need, and we'll come up to the right solution. So. Yeah, that's the plan, is to replace that carpet, either with carpet or some flooring that works for our uses of that room. So. I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah. All right. Anyway, but so yeah, that's a more to come. That'll be another meeting conversation. No, we won't be taking up Sunday morning to do that. That's a nice caveat. We do have it's called a space utilization team, and it is Joe and Wendy and Mary. They're the ones who kind of head that up. The people who decide how we're moving forward, what we're moving forward on, and what the progress is. And they're not arbitrarily making decisions. They are for the children's ministry rooms because that's Joe's ministry, so she's able to make decisions on how that is put together. But when it gets to the common areas, what we're doing in the common areas, then that'll involve the congregation, how we're doing that. Wendy's involved in that because she throws things away, and she has no problem throwing things away. So anyway, so that's the space utilization team. If you have interests or concerns about those kinds of things, please talk to Mary or Joe or Wendy about those things. Don't talk to me because number one, I don't care, and number two, I'll forget. I have opinions like everybody else does, but I need to be insulated from that to the point that my opinions are no more than anybody else's. Everybody has, so I'm involved in that, but it's as much everybody else's decision as it is mine. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to comment on the flooring thing, and that is that the flooring that we're choosing for the bathroom is a wood peel and stick because everything's concrete and that's what needs to be done. And so the hope is that wherever we have carpet, it'll be similar carpet. Wherever we have not carpet, will be that similar wood flooring.
More to come. Again, I'm sidestepping that one. I painted the living room of our house one time when Wendy was away at a conference. Her best friend stopped in and she yelled through the door, "You trying to cause an accident?" Because when I buy color, I want to get my money's worth, right? So, but the problem was that this was an old house, and so it had those curved ceilings, so I didn't quite know where to stop. So I painted the whole room robin's egg blue. Yeah, you could probably see it from outer space, yeah. Anyway, so I'm not allowed to be involved in those decisions anymore. So space utilization team, they have completed, they've done nursery playroom 1 and playroom 2. So if you want to see the kind of work that they're doing, those two are done. The resource room also, Roy and Mary were really involved in that and moving and adjusting, making furniture the right size to fit in the room. Next, they're working on the teen or youth room that we're planning to figure out what to do with that spot. I say they. I'm just kind of, yeah, I go to the dump. That's my role. So playroom 3, and that's the one that's back in the very back. The last room on the right side that's also going to be doing. And then also we have what's called the sensory safe room. Is that right? What's it called? Is that a restoration room? Okay, so that one is also, they're planning on what to do in that space. Last month or November, I purchased a study by Barna on formation of sacred spaces. Barna, you've heard of maybe the Pew Research Center. Barna is the same kind of a thing where they basically ask everybody, take surveys, find out the pulse, what everybody thinks about how things are, and offers those kinds of decisions. So the Barna partnered with something called the Aspen Group, which is an architectural firm who designs and builds churches. And so they did this study on what elements are important for churches. This is, that's not it. Where's the, I must have erased that slide. Yeah, it's not showing up. Oh, that's right. Okay, there it is. So I was in the wrong order. So basically what the Barna study came up with is these ideas. It says first, our physical space matters more than it ever has before. We're used to using digital spaces so much that if we're going to actually go to a physical space, it's important and it needs to have significant value as for what it is. And that those physical spaces are valued. And for those physical spaces to be valued, they need to be well defined. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago or last week. I can't remember, about having a worship room that is focused specifically for the purpose of worship and having a space that's sanctified for that. But how does this church, and this is what Mary and Wendy and Joe are tasked with, how does our space define us as Ignite Hope, and how is that different from any place else in the world? How is this us? And how does that space reflect who we are? One of the things they also said is that spaces that help people connect with God are connected with nature. So having natural spaces and naturally looking spaces is very important. But then also the personalities of those who occupy the spaces when representing those spaces make it easy for others to feel comfortable. So if you walk into my office, you're looking at things, what does it look like? What can this space tell you about me? And so when people come into a space and it looks very generic, and if it doesn't define who we are, then they don't know who we are, and that makes them less comfortable. Whereas if we have Steelers posters all over the sanctuary, they're like, yeah, I got this. So, does that make sense? I mean, Steelers, that's not a good example. But the idea that the space has definition and that people can understand, okay, I get these people because the space that is well defined. Does that make sense? So, okay, back from that. So there's a structure that we use to understand what is is a church growing, and is it healthy? And it's called the 7 Arrows strategy. And as a board, our board uses this every month when we do the board member meeting. We have these attributes that we are defining what we're doing and why we're doing it. And those things that we used to be, if a church is healthy, you just look at nickels and noses. How much money does it make and how many people are coming? But that's not really good understanding of who we are and how we're growing. So as far as the Oregon conference, we came up with these 7, they call them 7 arrows, or 7 of these attributes, and they're prayer, leadership development, a mentoring type pipeline, evangelistic discipleship, generosity, multiplication, unity, healing, and spiritual aliveness. So in your packets, you also have a survey where I would like you to determine honestly where you think we are in these definitions. And then also there's another one based on our values. Yeah, Charles? 5 would be better, yeah. Unless you do it really badly, then I'll just adjust it. So this is also based off of our, as a church, what our mission statement is. What our mission is as a church is to love God, love people, and make disciples. Making disciples means helping people grow to love God and love people. That's what making disciples is. So the same attributes. That's what we're trying to achieve. So the first one is prayer. We have a weekly prayer meeting Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Usually there's about 4 people that come here on average to pray. And I want you to understand that 4 is not a bad number for this group. If we had a prayer meeting and we said 8% of our population showed up at that, then most pastors and church organizations are going to be very happy with that. So 8% is 4 people. And so that's a healthy number for this size congregation. We'd like everybody to be involved in prayer, but we're also not trying to bolster that number by making people be involved in something that God's not calling them to. So we're also working on targeted prayer groups that get together to pray or to communicate together. They don't necessarily have to physically get together, but people who pray over specific areas. One of those groups is for healing, praying for healing. Another one is for political engagement, and the other one is, what did we say it was? I can't remember. What's that? Oh, yeah, so just spirit, I think it says spiritual growth or just development as a congregation, spiritual health as a congregation. I can't remember what the title is, but anyway, has been a lot of false starts to that, by the way. It hasn't gone off easily. But by the way, things don't do that. They don't just happen because we'd like them to. They take time, it takes us figuring out what they are. So don't be discouraged if you signed up for one of those and it's not moving the way you think it should be moving yet. We're not giving up on that. It just takes a while for it to process. We also have a prayer chain. It's a Facebook group that we have 25% of our population is involved in that. If those people who aren't on Facebook are using, they have somebody else who has access to someone on Facebook who communicates back and forth with that too. So next is leadership development. The board's budgeted me $100 a month for educational experiences. Just so you know, I'm not an ordained elder in the Free Methodist Conference yet. I'm like on probation. I'll call the conference ministerial candidate. who is an acting pastor, and so I have to be continuing my education in the Free Methodist lists of their academic processes that I need to go through. So I have about 11 classes that I still need to complete. That's taking me a lot slower than it did before. Before I came into this position, I was completing a course a month. Turns out running a business with $3 million cash flow is a whole lot easier than trying to manage a church. So that's taken some time. But also the other thing you should know is that for Free Methodist, part of the culture is continued education. It doesn't matter. Bishop Kenny, who is my boss's boss's boss, is talking about the classes that he's currently taking and things that he's doing to continue his education. So that's just normal that we're developing that. We have 3 ministerial candidates, CMCs, and that's Joe and LMCs, yeah. Joe and Wyatt and Mike. And right now they're kind of paused on their advancement on that. There's different things that they're working on, so we'll make sure that we want to get the ground running and not just do things for the sake of doing them, but be purposeful in those. And also, I'm new here, so it's been a process of me trying to figure out how I can be of service to them too. And so we will be moving forward in that direction, but right now we're not doing a whole lot. And then also we're working on developing a discipleship culture. This is really a big deal. And in fact, if you look at 3 out of the 7 of those arrows are actually about discipleship and growing our health as a community. Outreach is no good. It's not worth our time if we're just bringing people in the building who aren't growing up in their relationship with God. So discipleship is foundational. We had a prayer meeting last night. We had kind of a summit where we actually went through who Ignite is, where have we come to, what are our values, and what do we need to have a solid foundation on moving forward. And the total emphasis of that conversation moved into discipleship. That's really where our focus needs to be. So mentoring pipeline, also discipleship. It's what we're doing something called a next steps strategy. And this is different because over the past, 40 years or so, discipleship has been a matter of you buy the book, you work through the worksheet, you finish it off, and then you never hear from it again. And yet, discipleship is really about building relationships and growing relationships with people and growing together in your relationship with God. So there's not a lot of programs that we can buy and bring in and just enact that's going to do that. What we have to do is create a culture. And so what I've been working on for the past 4 months is something called the next step strategy. And that's where we work on building relationships and having a strategy for building into those relationships, how we can grow together in our relationship with God. There's also a men's conference coming up February 22nd. We purchased 10 or 11, I can't remember now, tickets for that. It's $70. So if you're able to we don't actually budgeted for that. So if you're able to reimburse, if you wanted to go that and we're able to reimburse the church for that $70 for going to that, that's great. But don't allow that to be a hindrance. If God's calling you to be at that, please come. Good? Evangelism, discipleship's right there. So again, discipleship culture, next step strategy, and then Alpha Youth is the outreach program we're having where it's actually introduces the concepts of God and big questions in an environment that is not churchy. It's not church. It's giving them a forum where they can actually ask the questions and wrestle through those things on their own. Hope is actually leading that. I'm not allowed to because I'm a pastor. And they don't want somebody to be in the leadership role of that who is someone who's going to be authoritative or take over the conversation or not be in that role where we can actually engage and interact. So that's we want to start. We're getting our feet wet with the youth program. We also want to create an opportunity for there's an adult program for Alpha that we'd like to include. We have people in place for leadership for that, but we want to figure out what we're doing with the kids first. Generosity, the board has budgeted funds for caring for people at my discretion. So if people come who need funding for different things, then I have some money available that I can distribute. So there's cash available here at the church for helping people out. I'd like to consider developing a generosity team. I'd like to be off of that, where that's just not me doing that, where it's actually, I'll be on the team, but I'd love to have people engaged in that, where we're actually ministering as a community and not just as me arbitrarily deciding who should get funds and who doesn't for whatever reason. I'd love to be off of everything. Right now we have a budget sheet or an expense sheet that has, well, every ministry, every operational ministry thing that we have on the budget list, there's a checkbox. And each one of those is assigned a name of the person who can authorize payment for a particular ministry. And my name is on like 80% of those. I think there's only 3 things that my name's not on. I'd like to be off of all of those. I'd like for people of the congregation to be spending the money, and I can just do stuff that pastors have to do that don't involve spending money. So anyway, that's direction. But so for generosity, we've talked about doing a community barbecue sometime, maybe even a couple of them. We do something called the Fill the Backpack, where the school district says, hey, we need last year was pencils. I decided we should buy these pencils with a really cool encouraging statements on the sides of them. Yeah, well, everybody that knew what they were talking about said, no, get pencils that work. And so we went with the people that knew what they were talking about. So I just want to say that's a good example of how this church is not me doing things, it's the congregation doing things. And I make decisions that are often wrong, and I often get corrected, and I'm so grateful for that. So fill the backpack, something. Then actually right before the school starts, then there's an event. Usually it's at Crowfoot Baptist, and they actually fill up all these backpacks with 500 backpacks with stuff for kids. And and members of our church, actually we're probably there are more people that come from Ignite Hope to help out with that program than with any other organization. So we send people to fill the backpacks up. And then we do the trunk or treat in October, so those are going on. There's discussion about restarting the shoebox ministry. Right now, we help the Sotaville Evangelical. They fill shoeboxes to send to foreign countries with gifts for children. And it's an organization called Samaritan's Purse. And so right now, last year I went and grabbed a bunch of shoeboxes from Winston at Sotaville Evangelical, and we just filled them up and sent them back to them. But there's interest to restarting that ministry here also, and so that's something we can think about or pray about. There's also talk about a homeless food and toiletries care package ministry. We can't do something actually where we invite homeless people here because we have like 40 teenagers surrounding the building all the time. But we can do a homeless ministry that we're actually reaching out into the community there to do things for them. Yeah. Yeah, it was your idea. So we're praying about the leadership, how that can move forward. First, if you're involved in leadership, there's some training that you have to go through in order to be involved in leadership here. And then also we're supporting the pastor in Vietnam with we're supporting one full-time pastor in Vietnam. It's like $250 a month. That's what the coin jar is out there for people are contributing to. Multiplication, again, we have Alpha Youth and Alpha Adult that we may be starting later this year. We have a Facebook and YouTube account where we're actually communicating through Facebook and YouTube. Over 1,000 people a week that we're reaching out and contacting. I have a budget for actually using some money on that. Where the Discipleship Next Steps is also helping to train people to become people comfortable with sharing the gospel and reaching out and communicating what we are and who we are. And then we're also working on broadening our schedule past Sunday morning. We have the Bible Project, which is a Bible class on Saturday evenings. We have Game Time. Game Time isn't insignificant, by the way. Are we still going to do that on Wednesdays or just on Sundays? Okay, all right. So right now, Sundays and Wednesdays. Game time is important because the purpose of that is building relationships. And if we don't have relationships first, then nothing else matters. So if you're inclined, I don't really participate in that. I don't play games. I just get frustrated. Part of it's because I'm too competitive, and I hate losing, but I also feel bad when I win. So it's just not any fun for me. So that's what we're currently our strategy for multiplication. And then unity, healing, and spiritual aliveness. This is the idea of us growing as a community, as people. I've got on the calendar monthly events, things that we can do together as a community. I want to do a couples banquet next month. By the way, for January, this is it. Okay, this is January, what it looks like. But for February, I'd like to do like a couples banquet. Singles are very important to us, and you're also invited. The single people are all invited to this. It's not an exclusionary thing, but we want to focus on valuing the relationships of husbands and wives, and it's hard. When you've been married for 20, 30, 40 years, sometimes you forget how to have fun. And we want to really invest in some ways that as couples that we can have fun. And also enjoy, if you've lost someone, if you've lost your spouse, that doesn't mean that you're not welcome, and we can enjoy that participation with you too. So, anyway, so a couples banquet in February. In March, March I want to do a costume party. That's actually a Jewish thing. So this festival of Purim is the study that's also the Feast of Esther. We can do a costume party. Just have fun, guys. It can be fun. Dress up. Yeah. Bill can get out that one tie he has that he hasn't worn for. So monthly events. So we want to have something where we get together and celebrate life together and enjoy community together. Men's conference again is February 22nd. February 23rd is a Sunday. I will be gone. I will be on vacation. That'll be the first vacation. Actually, it's a week-long vacation. And Wendy and I have been married 35 years in March, and we've never had a week together. So we're going to the coast. If she comes back and I'm buried somewhere in the sand, you know what happened. And then also we want to start collaborating with local Free Methodist churches. We don't know what that looks like, and we need participation from the other churches. But we have Salem and Sweet Home and Sublimity and Eugene, all within traveling distance. If we can actually build a sense of community among us, that's something we want to move in that direction. Again, I don't know what that looks like, but that's something I would like to see materialize in 2025. They did? Oh, okay. I thought it was the other way around. Right. So that's one of the things, and that's something Colleen has been pushing, and that I want to be. I think that's a good idea. So, by the way, just even if I don't think something is a good idea, that doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. So it's okay if you guys move forward in things. So, how can we be successful? Last slides. We're way over time already, but the last slides are how can we be successful as a church, what's necessary for Ignite Hope to achieve the goals that are set before us? First, pray. This is not about us doing and us being. It's about God working through us. And if we're not prayerful and if we're not quieting ourselves before God, then we're going to go in our own direction. And God's not going to honor that. And we're going to go, what happened? So please, as a congregation, pray for our congregation and for our community with passion. Second thing is don't get involved with anything because you think it needs to be done, which is weird. But what happens if you start stepping into a role that God's not calling you to, then one, it's not going to be fruitful the way that God wants it to be fruitful. And number two, a lot of times you're taking on a position that God is calling in somebody else to, and that person isn't doing it because you've stepped in because you want to do it. All right, so don't get involved in something because you think, oh yeah, that should happen. Do something, get involved in something because God's keeping you awake at night and saying you need to be involved in this. And if you don't know, that's not God's problem. That's because that you're struggling with. The chance if you don't know, more than likely it's because it's something you need to do, and you're deciding that you don't want to. But third thing is step out in faith when God is calling you to do something. Don't think, well, I don't know how to do that. Gideon didn't know how to lead an army. But God will give you the strength to do what you need to do. But step out in faith. If God is calling you to something, to be involved in something, step out in that. And God's going to give you the power and the strength to do that. Okay? And finally, what I need you guys to learn to participate in our communication plan, how Ignite Hope communicates. There's different ways because we're not totally online savvy. Not everybody's there, and I don't want to make you have to do something that's just not going to be valuable to you. But we have a website where we have a phone app where you can, if you want to know what's going on, you can press a little button on your phone and it'll bring up our website and find out what's going on here. Honestly, about 25% of my time right now is spent trying to learn how to communicate with all the different ways that everybody communicates. There's actually 9 different ways that I have to communicate every piece of information. So I have to repeat everything 9 times. And usually I forget or get distracted by the time I've gotten to 4. So there is a lapse in communication. So if you guys can, if you are comfortable with your cell phones and you can do the phone app, great. We're not going to not do other things because we're not going to leave anybody behind. But it'd be very helpful if you're using the tools that we have. If you're in leadership, I'd love you to be involved. We'll start learning Church Track, which is the program that holds everything together. Don't let it scare you. I just talking to Joe, it's like a big city. The Church Track there's a lot of stuff there. And like a city, you don't have to go anywhere. You just go to the places that are important to you. So don't let it be intimidating to you, but we can use those things as a tool. All right? Let's pray. God, you're so good. You have been so good to this church, and over again, you've demonstrated that you have care for us and that you have a mission and a purpose for this group of people in this place. Lord, I pray that this room and every person in this is sanctified to your glory, and that your purposes are met in all of us, and that any way that we can strengthen and encourage each other. Lord, I pray that you give us the wisdom and the courage and the discipline to do those things that we need to do. But mostly, I pray that we're submitting to who you are and glorifying in who you are and praising you for your goodness to us. Lord, bless the food, the lunch, and I pray that we have good conversation, and afterwards that we make decisions that are honoring to you. In your precious name, God, amen. So, lunch in the fellowship hall. After lunch, if you're a member, the members are the ones that have their names on the folders. If your name was not on a folder, then after lunch, go ahead and go home. You can come back if you want, but the members need to vote on a few items. We need to explain a couple items. It'll take probably 10 minutes, if that, and then we'll have a good day. Good?